Good morning. I'm Maureen Fellows, and I'm a trustee for the Village of Cazenovia. And part of my responsibility is overseeing the village boat launch at Lakeside Park. And I'll be presenting some data today that will give you an idea for this past summer of how the launch was used, who's using the launch, and maybe what the primary uses of the lake are.
I'll get it for you. Just trying. Okay, hang on a second. There you go.
All right. So I'm going to begin with some well-deserved thank yous to the folks who really interact each day with the hundreds of folks who use the launch. These are residents, and they also are visitors to our park. The boat stewards, Patty, Mike, Bill, and Tom, they really are our ambassadors. They play a really important role. They do a great job. They inspect for invasives. They make sure that folks have paid their fees, which is not necessarily the most pleasant part of their job. Then they help them making sure that the boat launch is safe and that people are handling their boats in a proper way. Kathy and Sue also are very important in the process in that they issue the permits and they answer a lot of questions throughout the summer. Bill Carr and his staff, they do a remarkable job in keeping the park clean and safe. And the village police, the town, KVAC, Madison County, and Willowbank, they also play a significant role throughout the summer. So in this summer, 2018, the launch was open from April 28th through Columbus Day in October. The launch was more active this summer than in the past. There were 1,880 inspections. That's 125 more inspections than the previous year. Now you'll see as I go through this very quickly that many of the stats are similar to what we've seen in the past, but I'm updating you and I'm going to try and clarify any sort of differences that we see. It's also the case that all of this data and some more will be on the website, so I will be going through this quickly, but you can go to the website and look a little bit more deeper. We issued 14 fewer free resident passes this year for a total of 382. We issued 17 more non-resident passes this year, and there was no increases in fees, and there were 190 of those passes that were issued. And the number of day passes, they increased modestly to 11, by 11. It shouldn't be surprised based on the number of passes that I just mentioned, how the launch is broken down by the residency. So a full 60% of inspections were on boats owned by non-residents, 28 by town residents, and 6 by village residents. Now these figures are similar to prior years, and they only vary by about a percentage or so. So where do these out-of-town folks come from? Well, most this year came from Syracuse, and this was a little bit of a surprise. That number has doubled compared to last year, 26%. Manlius and Nelson were the next significant locations. They came in at 18 and 12%, and that's very similar to the past years. And then we attract boaters from the surrounding area, Erieville, Canastota, Utica, and Hartford. And those are pretty consistent. Now, in all, there were 61 different locations that people listed that were using our lake this past summer. So we also log in where each of these boats that we are launching and inspecting, where those boats were the last time they were launched. And overwhelmingly this summer, as in past summers, the boats are hauled in and out of Cazenovia Lake multiple times. So 1,390 inspections were the boats that most recently had been hauled out of Cazenovia Lake and were put back in Cazenovia Lake. Oneida Lake is the next most common lake that we receive boats from. There were 60 of those inspections. And then we also have a category of brand new boats that are launched for the first time, and there were 35 of those. And overall, there were 60 prior bodies of water recorded. So there are a lot of different inspections that are needed basically because these boats are coming from other bodies of water that might impact our lake. They're also from 14 different sites outside the state, and this includes Pennsylvania, Maine, Florida, New Hampshire. So that's something we need to also keep in mind. We keep track of the launch activity by the day of the week, and as you might expect, the weekends are the busiest. 38% of inspected boats were over the weekend. But this year we see a little bit of a change in that, in fact, Friday launches equaled Sunday launches, both at 18%. So we see a little bit of shift there in activity. By month, the pattern of inspections doesn't really change significantly. Often this is due to weather more than anything else over the years. And we saw this year more boats were launched, I mentioned, and when they were launched was in May. We had 325 that were launched compared to 239. And in June, you can see the differential there. That's where more of the boats were launched than in the past year. We asked voters what their primary use will be when those boats are inspected and launched. And as you might guess, most of the voters come for fishing, 59%. And then a significant number come and just are interested in general recreation, and that was 37%. And once again, those numbers have not changed significantly over the years. A trend that I mentioned last year worth noting is just the sheer horsepower of boat that is coming to our lakes. Last year, we had 58% of boats that were inspected coming to the lake had 100 horsepower or more. This year, that dropped to 44%. We had more smaller horsepower boats coming into the lake. In fact, boats between 26 and 50 horsepower, that doubled. It was 9% last year, but we had more of those smaller boats come in. That number was 18%. We also inspected a small number of sailboats, electric boats, and jet skis. And then finally, the village police had an important presence on the lake this year. There were 122 hours of patrols, Memorial Day through Labor Day. The chief helped keep our triathlon competitors safe this summer during that competition. There were 3 complaints logged to the Marine Patrol this year. That's down from 8 last year. We trained an additional officer that would be manning those boats and also help train for boating safety. And next year, the Lake Patrol plans to conduct more training with our partner responders. They found that very valuable in the past years. And then the stewards will be providing an equipment and safety checklist that the Marine Patrol created this year, and they will be distributing that at the beginning of the summer. So once again, all of this data and more will be on the website, and so it will also have some historical data if you have any other questions.
Oh, thank you, Maureen. Very quick,
Yes,
in the inspections this year, did we turn anyone away?
No, there were no one was turned away, and that's been true for several years in a row.
Everybody passed?
Exactly, yes. People know what to expect this year. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any idea what the boat traffic at other sites in the lake on Route 20 or Willow Bank or the Nick Park, what percentage of the boats coming in end up going through your inspection?
So I don't know that. We don't ask folks where they plan to eventually wind up, whether, I know Willow Bank is a very, very difficult place to launch your boat. So people use the launch to go to Willow Bank, or if they are launching their boat and then keeping it at their home.
I guess what I'm asking you though is, a lot of people that I've noticed launching from Route 20 there, for instance, their kayak off the top of the car into the lake.
Right.
So I'm wondering what percentage of the total boats that come into the lake are actually inspected. And whether, if you're only inspecting half of the boats that brought in, whether it's actually even worth doing and spending the money that you're showing us here.
Right, so we are inspecting a lot of boats, first of all, and I think that matters, and they do a very thorough job. It's also the case that our primary responsibility we see is with the motorized boats. So, and there's more likely that you're going to have boat hitchhikers and so forth on a motorized boat. So would we anticipate that, could we inform the public to clean off their kayaks, for example, at the south end of the lake? That's something we could possibly do. But to answer your question, we really don't have any good information about the other locations where boats are entering the lake,
I just wonder.
kayaks or otherwise.
Worthwhile trying to accumulate some information about that, even if you just do pick a day of the week or a week of the year.
Absolutely.
And see how many kayaks you get launched, because they're more likely to be going to different lakes and making a lot of different stops and potentially picking up things different places. Than
That's true.
a motorboat guy
That's
is
true.
limited in access.
Yes.
This spring I was up to Lake George and observed their program there, which is pretty comprehensive. But they told me that this spring, immediately when people started putting boats in, they found a person from New Jersey that brought hydrola in on one of the boats. And then they steam clean those boats, and they also put seals on each boat so they know when it goes to another lake or whatever where it goes to. But I wonder if Cazenovia is taking any steps. If you find hydrola or something on a boat, you stop that boat and don't let it come in at all, or are you thinking about maybe steam cleaning, containing some of those invasives?
So we wash the boats. All the boats are washed. So we do that, and we do a thorough job, and we train our stewards to do that. Yes, the stewards are trained in identifying the invasive species, and they do report that. So whether they do not then stop the boats because that they have cleaned the boats. But we haven't discussed steam cleaning in any way. It hasn't been that significant a problem, but I think that's something that we should think about, absolutely. I think that in Lake George, those are DEC inspection sites. So it's a little bit different, but I appreciate what you're saying. Yes? Yes, they're right there, and right.
Where's the runoff go?
Pardon me?
Where does the runoff go?
It goes into the storm drains.
That go into the lake.
Right.
Yeah, but the wash is on the
It's-
way out.
Right.
So we're keeping our invasives in our lake. Does that make sense? No, so the washing is done on the way out, so that we're not
Right, so it's
contaminating
not
someone else.
right. Yes?
Go ahead. Did you find any, the hydrola or anything?
No. There was nothing suspicious found this year. Last year, there was some concern about one boat, and we identified it, and it was not hydrola. Yes.
Is there any monitoring at all of what is launched at Willow Bank? Are the members there, can they come in and launch their boat without a permit from the town?
Absolutely. If they're a member of Willow Bank, they can
So there's
launch
no
their boat
policing
multiple
at that
times.
site, that launch site?
Correct.
There's
It's-
signage, but there's no policing.
There's no police in place.
We check boats out.
Right.
We check them. We check them, most of the boats are coming in from, they leave and go back to the same place.
Right.
So they're not going to other lakes that they're staying in.
And in fact, my understanding is that it's the preference of Willow Bank to make sure that one of the yard boys is there to assist in some way.
Correct.
For that exact purpose.
Yes.
And I think an important point to make about the boat launch is it's also the stewards are there to kind of maintain order. Because beforehand there were trailers all over the place and other people couldn't use the park, so that's an important aspect of the program as well. It keeps it neat and usable for everyone.
Orderly.
Yeah.
Thank you.